Hello again. Back from Bordeaux. Still here. So now we're going to talk about that. Being a true follower of Christ is living a life of love. Jesus was the pure embodiment of love. His entire purpose was to love and serve us, even as we are sinners. His life and death was the ultimate act of love, and this point is revealed clearly in Mark chapter 10, verse 45. For even the Son of Man came not to be served, but to serve others and to give his life as a ransom for many. If we say we are Jesus followers, aka Christians, but then in the same breath say we don't like people or we don't treat others in so loving ways, which I am guilty of, which I think we all can say at one time or another we have been guilty of, we have missed the entirety of what being a Christian really means. It is stated in all of the Gospels as the great commandment, which we all know very well. So I think it was just kind of cool for me to look at, this is the love your neighbor as yourself type chapters and verses, and it's in every gospel, and so I kind of went in each one and picked out that section, and so that's what we're going to read now. So this one is from Matthew 22, verses 35 through 40. One of them, an expert in the law, tested him with this question: Teacher, which is the greatest commandment in the law? And Jesus replied, Love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all your mind. This is the first and greatest commandment. And the second is like that: love your neighbor as yourself. All the law and the prophets hang on these two commandments. So that's how it's stated in Matthew. Next, we look at Mark. And this is from Mark chapter 12, verses 28 through 31. One of the teachers of the law came and heard them debating. Noticing that Jesus had given them a good answer, he asked him, Of all the commandments, which is the most important? The most important one, answered Jesus, is this: Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God, the Lord is one. Love the Lord your God with all your heart, and with all your soul, and all your mind, and with all your strength. The second is this: love your neighbor as yourself. There is no commandment greater than these. And now let's see how it's stated in Luke, which is from chapter 10, verses 25 through 29. On one occasion, an expert in the law stood up to test Jesus. Teacher, he asked, what must I do to inherit eternal life? What is written in the law? He replied. How do you read it? He answered, Love the Lord your God with all your heart, and with all your soul, and with all your strength, and with all your mind, and love your neighbor as yourself. And so Jesus replied, You have answered correctly. Do this, and you will live. But he wanted to justify himself, so he asked Jesus, And who is my neighbor? And we're going to talk about that in a little bit. But then now let's look at what it says in John. And this is John 13, verses 34 and 35. A new command I give you. Love one another. As I have loved you, so you must love one another. By this everyone will know that you are my disciples, if you love one another. What's even more amazing is that when we live a life of love, we do everything that God has asked us to do. And it's stated in the scriptures below. And this is from Romans chapter 13. I'm going to stop here because I think that's pretty cool. Like I said, in Bordeaux, it must be 7 o'clock because most church bells chime on the hour. That's pretty cool. Let's see if it's done. Okay. So, again, Romans 13, 8 through 10. Owe nothing to anyone except for your obligation to love one another. If you love your neighbor, you will fulfill the requirements of God's law. For the commandments say, you must not commit adultery, you must not murder, you must not steal, you must not covet. These and other such commandments are summed up in this one commandment: love your neighbor as yourself. Love does no wrong to others, so love fulfills the requirements of God's law. So over and over and over and over again, it's all about love. Jesus is love. There's no laundry list of things that we must do to be right with God, but love Him and people. So the real question is, what is love according to Christ? And so the next episode, we'll be talking about, again, exactly what I just said, love according to Christ, because we all have many, many definitions of love, and we view love in so many ways, but Christ clearly models that for us, and what love is and what love is not. And that's why so many, it breaks your heart when people say they do things in the name of love or this or that. But when you're hurting people, just like sometimes I think of with like terrorists, and they say because they're defending their God, or but anything that makes you kill someone else is really not. It's not out of love. I guess unless it's defense, of course, but Christ clearly models it for us and tells us what love is. And so that's what we'll be talking about next time. So glad you joined me again, and we'll pick it up next time.